The command deck of the ISS Vindicator hummed with the low thrum of fusion engines and the soft beeping of a dozen monitoring stations. Outside the reinforced viewport, the gas giant Xerxes swirled in shades of amber and crimson, a silent, beautiful monster. Inside, the atmosphere was far more hostile. Captain Sarah Vance stood rigid, her uniform crisp, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun that matched her expression. Her eyes, the color of burned copper, were fixed on me with an intensity that could have melted hull plating. "Explain it again, Lieutenant Commander Riker," she said, her voice a low, dangerous blade. "Explain to me why our secure communications log shows a data burst traveling from your personal console to an unregistered relay exactly 17 minutes before the ambush at Outpost 7. I kept my hands clasped behind my back, my posture as steady as I could make it, even though my heart was hammering against my ribs. "Captain, I've already told you. I was running a diagnostic on the long-range comm arrays. The system must have auto-sent a test packet. It's a standard protocol." "Standard protocol," she repeated, taking a step closer. The other bridge officers found sudden interest in their screens, unwilling to meet either of our eyes. "Standard protocol that just happened to broadcast our patrol route to the exact coordinates where 3 of my ships were crippled and 57 of my people were killed?" The accusation hung in the recycled air like a physical weight. 57 souls. I'd served with half of them, played cards with them, shared ration bars during long watches. And now their captain was looking at me like I'd personally signed their death warrants. "I am not a traitor," I said, meeting her gaze directly. "It was the only weapon I had left. I've served under you for 6 years. I've bled for this crew. You know me, Captain." For a fraction of a second, something flickered in those copper eyes. Regret? It vanished so quickly I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. "I thought I did, Riker. But the evidence doesn't lie. The data burst originated from your station, your access codes, your biometric signature. The system could have been spoofed," I insisted. "Someone could have cloned my credentials. The Xenarians have slicing technology that—" "The Xenarians," she cut me off with a sharp gesture, "are a conquered people with primitive tech and a grudge. They don't have the capability to breach fleet encryption. You know that." She turned to the security officer standing by the door, a mountain of a man named Jex with a face like carved granite. "Lieutenant Jex, place Commander Riker under arrest. Confine him to the Brig pending formal court-martial." Jex hesitated. It was only a fraction of a second, but I caught it. He'd served with me too. But orders were orders. He moved forward, his heavy hand landing on my shoulder. "Sir," he said quietly, "please don't make this difficult." I didn't resist. What would be the point? I looked past Jex, past the captain, and out the viewport at the swirling gas giant. Somewhere down there, in the crushing pressure and toxic clouds, Outpost 7 had been torn apart. And somehow, impossibly, the trail led back to me. As Jex led me toward the brig, I heard the captain's voice behind me, cold and final. "Bridge, set course for Fleet Command. We're delivering a traitor for judgment." Chapter 2. The Unexpected Laughter. The Vindicator's brig was a small, sterile cell with a hard bunk, a recycler unit, and a force field that hummed with enough energy to cook a man who tried to pass through it. I'd been sitting there for 6 hours, replaying every moment of the last week in my head, searching for any anomaly, any moment when someone could have accessed my station. Nothing came to mind. I was thorough, paranoid even. It was why Captain Vance had trusted me with sensitive communications in the first place. Or had trusted me. Past tense. The hum of the force field changed pitch and I looked up. Captain Sarah Vance stood on the other side, alone. No Jex. No security detail. Just her, holding a small data slate and an expression I couldn't quite read. "Come to gloat?" I asked, my voice flat. "Or to personally escort me to the airlock?" She didn't answer. Instead, she tapped a code into the control panel, and the force field flickered and died. She stepped into the cell, the space suddenly feeling impossibly small with both of us in it. "Stand up, Riker," she said. I rose slowly, wary. This could be a trap. The test. She'd done things like this before, psychological evaluations designed to catch suspects off guard. She looked at me for a long moment, then did something that completely shattered my expectations. She started laughing. It wasn't a mocking laugh. It wasn't cruel. It was a genuine, helpless, almost hysterical laugh that seemed to bubble up from somewhere deep inside her. Her shoulders shook. She pressed a hand to her mouth, trying to stop, but it only made it worse. I stared at her like she'd grown a second head. "Captain? Are you okay?" She waved her free hand at me, trying to catch her breath. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the laughter subsided into a series of gasps. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand and held out the data slate. "Read this," she said, her voice still unsteady. "And try not to hate me too much when you're done." I took the slate, my eyes scanning the text on the screen. It was a classified intelligence report, stamped with the highest clearance levels. As I read, the pieces began to click into place, and a cold, hard knot formed in my stomach. 6 months ago, Fleet Intelligence had captured a Narration slicer, a cyber warfare specialist, during a skirmish near the outer colonies. Under interrogation, he'd revealed something terrifying. The Narratians hadn't been conquered. They'd played dead. They'd let the fleet believe they were broken so they could rebuild in secret. And they'd spent those years developing a weapon the report called a ghost drive. The ghost drive didn't just make a ship invisible. It made it undetectable on every known scanning frequency. Heat signatures, radiation trails, gravitational distortions, all of it completely invisible. A ship equipped with a ghost drive could sit right next to the Vindicator and we'd never know it was there. I looked up from the slate, my mind racing. Outpost 7. They didn't track our patrol route. They were already there, watching, waiting for us to get close. Captain Vance nodded, her expression grim. "They've been shadowing us for weeks, Riker. Reading our communications, learning our patterns. The data burst from your console? That was them. They sliced into our systems, cloned your credentials, and sent that burst themselves. They wanted us to find it. They wanted us to turn on each other. They framed me," I breathed. "They wanted you to arrest me. To create chaos, mistrust. Divide the command structure." "Exactly." She ran a hand through her hair, a rare gesture of agitation from the usually composed captain. "I figured it out 3 hours ago when our passive sensors picked up a ghost, a flicker of energy that shouldn't have been there. I ran a deep diagnostic, found the intrusion, traced it back. They're still out there, Riker. They've been watching the whole time. Probably enjoying the show." The implication hit me like a physical blow. If the Narratians were still out there, still invisible, still watching, then they knew the captain had figured it out. They knew she'd come to my cell. "They'll be expecting us to react," I said. "To send a message, scramble fighters, try to run." She smiled, and for the first time since this nightmare began, it reached her eyes. "That's why we're not going to do any of those things. I have a plan. But I need you with me. I need my communications officer back." I handed her the slate, a new fire kindling in my chest. "Tell me what you need, Captain." Chapter 3. The Explosion. 20 minutes later, I was back at my station on the command deck. The crew had looked at me with a mixture of confusion and relief when I walked in, but Captain Vance had silenced any questions with a single, sharp look. She stood at the center of the bridge, hands clasped behind her back, radiating calm authority. "All hands, this is the captain," she announced over the ship-wide comm. "The charges against Commander Riker have been reviewed and dismissed. The recent tragedy at Outpost 7 was not the result of treason, but of enemy action. The Xenarian vessel that attacked our people is still out there. And we're going to find it." A murmur ran through the bridge crew. At my station, my fingers flew across the console, not sending messages, but preparing a different kind of transmission. A special kind. "Commander Riker," Captain Vance said, her voice carrying across the bridge. "Send the following message on all fleet emergency frequencies. Vindicator to Fleet Command. We have identified the traitor. He has confessed. We are transporting him to Fleet Holding Station Themis for trial. Request priority docking clearance. Our E is 4 hours." I entered the commands, my heart pounding. To anyone listening, including the invisible Xenarian ship, it would look like standard procedure. A traitor caught, a ship heading to base, a crew relieved to be done with the mess. But the message I actually sent was very different. Buried deep in the transmission, encoded in a frequency the Xenarians couldn't possibly detect, was a targeting beacon. A homing signal so powerful it would light up our location like a flare, but only for the 3 heavily armed fleet cruisers waiting just beyond the gas giant's far side, hidden in the radiation belt where even ghost drives couldn't fully conceal a ship. The trap was set. For the next hour, we maintained course for Fleet Holding Station, acting out the roles of a relieved crew heading home. I kept one eye on my passive sensors, watching for any hint of the invisible enemy. Nothing. They were good. Really good. Then, just as we were about to clear the gas giant's gravity well, my console lit up with a priority message from Fleet Command. It was a single word, confirmed. "They took the bait," I said, unable to keep the grin from my face. "The cruisers have a solid lock on the Xenarian ship. They're powering weapons." Captain Vance nodded, her expression unchanged. "Maintain course. Let them think we're oblivious." 30 seconds later, the viewport flared with light. The explosion wasn't on our ship. It was 200 kilometers to port, where the Xenarian ghost ship had been lurking. 3 fleet cruisers had dropped their own stealth fields simultaneously and unleashed a full broadside. Plasma cannons, missile volleys, railgun accelerators, everything they had. For a moment, the enemy ship flickered into visibility, a sleek, predatory shape wreathed in fire and venting atmosphere. Then the secondary explosions began, ripping through its hull in a chain reaction that turned it into an expanding cloud of debris and vapor. The bridge of the Vindicator erupted in cheers. Officers hugged each other, pounded consoles, shouted in triumph. 57 souls, avenged. I looked over at Captain Vance. She was still standing at the center of the bridge, still composed, but there were tears streaming silently down her face. Tears of relief. Tears of grief. Tears for the people we couldn't save. She caught me looking and gave me a small nod. An acknowledgement. An apology. A thank you. I nodded back. No words needed. Epilogue. The debriefing. Later that night, after the debriefings and the damage reports and the long-range scans confirming the Xenarian ship was nothing but atoms, I found Captain Vance in her quarters. She was sitting at her small desk, a glass of something amber-colored in her hand, staring at a holographic image of the Vindicator's crew taken 6 months ago. 57 faces in that image were gone. She didn't look up when I entered. "I owe you an apology, Riker. A real one. I should have trusted you. I should have looked harder, questioned the evidence instead of accepting it." I leaned against the doorframe. "They were good, Captain. Really good. The ghost drive, the slicing, the frame job. They planned this for years. No one would have seen through it immediately. But I did see through it," she said quietly. Eventually. After I'd already branded you a traitor in front of the whole crew. After I'd locked you in a cell like a criminal. She finally looked up at me, and I saw the weight she carried in her eyes. How do you come back from that? I walked over and sat in the chair across from her desk. You don't. You just go forward. You keep commanding. You keep trusting your people, even when the evidence says not to. Because if you stop trusting, they've already won. She was silent for a long moment, studying me like she was seeing me for the first time. Then she reached into a drawer and pulled out a second glass, filling it from the bottle and sliding it across the desk. To going forward, she said. I took the glass and raised it. To going forward. We drank in companionable silence, two officers who'd been through fire and emerged on the other side. Outside the small viewport in her quarters, the stars shone steady and eternal. Somewhere out there, other threats were waiting. Other enemies. Other ghosts. But for now, there was just this moment. The ship. This crew. And a captain who had called me a traitor, laughed with relief when she learned the truth, and watched everything explode into justice. It was enough.